The Mythmakers is Season 3's first attempt at a historical episode, and it works pretty well for the most part. This is a missing episode, so sadly I can only judge upon what I have heard, but I did like most of what I heard. So I enjoyed the first part the most, when they get put back into ancient Troy and the Doctor gets mistaken as Zeus, and a good deal of confusion ensues. I just enjoyed following these different people and getting an understanding of the conflict of the two different sides. It just worked really well for me, and I can honestly say that I enjoyed that. I don't really have anything to say about Steven, but as soon as I do, I'll be sure to let you know. I still enjoy this version of the Doctor, and I love seeing how he reacts to different situations, and the joy that comes from him. It's just good fun, and I've been liking Vicky, although this episode does do a bit to question that. So I've got a couple of things I want to say, but they're both spoiler comments. So if you don't want any spoilers for this episode, then skip ahead to the time shown on screen. I want to give you a little bit. Alright, and that's basically all you got. If you're still with me, then we're going to jump ahead right into the spoilers. So the first thing I'm going to mention is that it was interesting to see Doctor Who's take on the Trojan Horse, and how the Doctor very directly influenced that part of history. It was just interesting, and it's worth mentioning. My main thing I want to mention is Vicki's exit from the show, which wasn't handled terribly well, if I'm being honest. Now, Vicky hadn't been with us for terribly long, but I had come to like her and enjoyed her presence in the show, and they ended up giving Vicky what feels like an attempt at a replication of Susan's exit, but without the meaning or any sort of depth behind it. You see, when Susan left the show, it made sense. She had communicated prior her need to belong somewhere, and how she didn't get that traveling about in time. And it was really powerful to see how she wouldn't be able to say goodbye to her grandfather. But the Doctor knew that she needed to belong somewhere, and staying there is what she truly wanted at heart, although she wouldn't have been able to choose that over her own grandfather. While I didn't buy that she was in love with this man, that we hadn't known that for that long, and frankly neither had she, it made sense that she would fall for a human, considering how much time she spent on Earth and her interest in humans. But with Vicky, she basically just stays because she's fallen for this man, and that's it. There was nothing expressed prior to this episode that gave me any sort of indication that this would be her fate. So it just comes out of nowhere, and I'm not saying that everything has to be set up. You can have tragic things happen to characters unexpectedly, but this isn't a decision that makes sense given what I know about Vicky. So I really didn't like this aspect of the episode. I mean, just couldn't they have come up with literally any other reason than she just met a man and she wants to stay with him? I mean, it just feels lazy, and it feels tired, and it just feels very 60s. And it's just rather unfortunate that this was the way they decided to let Vicky go, because I liked Vicky, and it's a real shame to me, but there's nothing to truly be done about it. So, I do have one more thing I want to mention, which has to do with this episode, sort of, and that is that there was a new producer for Doctor Who starting with this episode, and it was John Wiles, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And he didn't stay on for very long. He only did a few episodes, but he's one of the producers, one of the, how many? Like, somewhere around 9 producers, I think, of the classic Who. So, yeah, it's worth mentioning. New producer, John Wiles. He's going to be around for a little bit. I will like to keep track of who the producers are in this show, when they come in, when they leave, because that is one way that people, if to my understanding, keep track of the tenures of the show. Like, you know, the Philip Hinchcliffe era or the John Nathan Turner era, similarly to how we would with, you know, New Who and Stephen Moffat and what's his name? Now I can't remember it. Russell T Davies, the showrunners, because they're basically that important. So yeah, that's that. So that was my main complaint with this episode, and sadly, I don't really have much more to say about it. Overall, it was a good setting, and I don't think that the story outstayed its welcome. It moved at a pretty good pace, the characters were engaging, the events were engaging, it was just overall a pretty good episode, yet with some things that dragged it down for me, and I'm going to give the Mythmakers a rating of 7.5 out of 10. If you join me again this coming Sunday, then I will be reviewing the Daleks Master Plan, and I've already seen it. I'm excited to talk about it. I can't say anything now, but if you join me Sunday, then you will be hearing from me. So yeah, that's going to do it for now, folks. Thank you for watching. Take care, and have a lovely week.